Okay, so Kings Island, right? It's a park I already made a video on. Okay, all jokes aside, Kings Island is still definitely my favorite park in the world, as it has beautiful atmosphere, a great park layout, and some really underrated flats, honestly. So now that I say that, you're probably thinking, why am I remaking this video? Well, not only did I gain the 2 credits that I was previously missing, as being the Beast and Snoopy Soapbox Racers, but also I formed new opinions on a lot of the coasters there, so yeah. Also, my original video was really bad, so yeah, I'm remaking it now.
I got it wrong.
Okay, so like, most coaster channels, like mine, would place Great Pumpkin Coaster at the bottom of the list, because, you know, it's a small little coaster made for small children. But see, my problem with Great Pumpkin Coaster is the fact that it is just so intense, and it just has so many positive G's to the point where I can't handle it, so therefore it gets last.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me wanna wag my tail. When it comes, I wanna wail.
Okay, so Kings Island, you know, they don't really have any awful coasters, probably because they don't have any coasters made by Zamperla, but they do have, like, one bad coaster, that being Flying Ace Aerial Chase, or I'm sorry, Woodstock's Air Rail, or whatever they're calling it now, I don't know. Okay, so a lot of people say that their problem with this ride is the fact that it gives a lot of headbanging, but I've never actually really felt any of that headbanging. So my problem with it is that it's boring and it's rough, and I don't know, it's just not a good ride. Also, the last time I rewrote it, it somehow managed to hurt my hips. I don't even know how I managed to do that. It's like the only coaster that's ever done that for me. Though I do admit I like the updated theming. It's pretty nice. And honestly, at this point, if Kings Island really wants a family inverted coaster, just like replace Flying Ace Aerial Chase with like a Vekoma family, with like one of the new gen Vekoma family inverts, or like one of the B&Ms, or I think even Intamin makes them now. So yeah, not a good ride. Replace it with one of the manufacturers that I just said.
Oh, well, everybody's heard about the bird. Bird's a winner.
So I've only ever actually gotten one ride on Woodstock Express, and it was fine. It was relatively forceless, but I mean, what did I expect? It's a kiddie coaster. Despite it being forceless, though, it's still a fun ride, and it still has a little bit of a rattle to remind you that it is indeed a wooden coaster. But yeah, now that I've ridden it once, I don't really see any value in never riding it again. Also, like a lot of the coasters on this list, the King's Dominion versions are better.
Knott's Berry Farm's new wacky soapbox racer.
Snoopy's Soapbox Racers was honestly a bit better than I expected it to be. I expected it to be forceless and honestly kind of boring, but no, it was actually pretty fun and delivered some alright positive G's on the turns. Also, like the rest of the Camp Snoopy theming, it's very well themed, and the theming is very cute, and I like it.
It's Indiana Jones.
He's got a whip.
Okay, so now we're finally at a Camp Snoopy and on to Adventure Express, which is a pretty good air mine train, probably the best one I've ridden. Though the transitions on this ride kind of hurt and are admittedly really janky, they're also pretty fun. I don't know, something about being yanked to the side by these stupid transitions, it just makes me laugh. Also, I really like how they added a storyline to this ride for no reason, and honestly, the more I think about it, the funnier the ending becomes, where you just take a lift hill back up to the station. Honestly, Adventure Express is just a really funny ride in general, and honestly, I really like it for that. Okay, so I haven't actually ridden in Vertigo in like a good 2 years because of my most recent revisit. It was closed for the whole day, so that's unfortunate. But from what I can remember, it was a pretty good Vekoma boomerang, as it was actually pretty smooth, and the inversions all gave great positive. Also, somehow I think the fact that it's inverted almost makes it like a bit more intense in a way. I don't know, it's just a good ride. Though I admit, Vertigo is still just a boomerang, which, I mean, even for someone like me who has somehow only ridden 4 out of my 188 credits, it still feels boring in a way, but I don't know, it's still a good ride.
Okay, stunt team, listen up.
Okay, so ever since the first video, my opinion on Backclut Stunt Coaster has actually changed. And by that, I mean I think it's slightly better than the King's Dominion version now. Mainly because, well, one, this one's actually more intense than the King's Dominion one from what I remember. And two, all the effects worked, and I don't think all the effects worked on the King's Dominion one. But besides that, I pretty much have the same opinion on it that I used to have, and by that, I mean it's an intense but relatively short family coaster. Also, for some reason, I've heard nobody else talk about this, but like this ride needs more padding on the seats, because on the first Helix, you know, there are a lot of positive G's. My back hurt so much because there was no padding on the seats. So yeah, I don't know. Add it, Kings Island. But besides that, I don't really have any flaws with it. It's a good ride. You should go ride it.
DC's Batman, the ride.
Okay, so despite the Bat looking like a relatively mild family coaster, it's honestly pretty insane, because like the swinging makes the positive G's way crazier somehow, and like also in the front row there's just random moments of whip that you like, I don't know how it works, it's confusing, but yeah, somehow you get whip in the front of the train. It's pretty cool. Also, something I didn't elaborate on last time is the fact that this ride just has a really good setting. You know, it has all the trees around it, and you can see the Great Wolf Lodge from the top of the lift hill. Honestly, I think it'd make for a really good night ride. You know, I should do that next time I go to Kings Island. Okay, somehow while I was recording this, I figured out that Flight of Fear and the Bat are only one spot apart in my rankings, which is crazy because they are vastly different rides. And Flight of Fear realistically should be a lot higher, but like it's not. And I'll get into that later. But first, I want to talk about the things that I like about it. So first of all, the launch, despite sounding really bad on paper, is actually pretty forceful and feels a lot faster than 60 miles per hour. Also, the inversions on this ride are really good, especially the final corkscrew, which is surprisingly whippy. Didn't I say I had complaints about this ride? Yeah, let me get to that. First of all, the second half does nothing. I mean, even when untrimmed, which I'm seemingly the only person who have ever gotten an untrimmed ride for some reason. Also, the fact that the lights are on in the building, like, kind of ruins the whole purpose of the ride, because, like, you know, it's supposed to be dark. If it's supposed to be dark, then why are the lights on? I don't get it! Also, this ride's really janky, but I think that's a good thing, and I don't know why I'm putting it in the things that I don't like about Flight of Fear. So yeah, Flight of Fear is a good ride, but King's Dominion's version is better because it's jankier.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Okay, so I remember in my first video, I said that Racer would probably not rank above Flight of Fear at any point in my life, and well, look what happened. Racer's above it. Wowee. Okay, but like besides that, Racer hasn't really changed. It still gives good airtime, and it still races, and it's still a fun ride. I don't really know what else to say about it. Move on to the next coaster in the ranking. Okay, so like Racer, Banshee is pretty much the same ride that I remember it being, but I'm gonna talk about it in too much detail anyway, unlike Racer. This ride has some really great terrain usage and some really great hang time, weirdly, which is, you know, kind of odd for a B&M invert, but I'm not complaining. The hang time is really good. There's also the pretzel knot, which despite not being as good as the Batwings on Mont 2 or Afterburn, is like still a really good inversion. It actually has a lot of hang time and some pretty good positive G's as well, though again, the positive G's are not as good as Mont 2 or Afterburn's Batwing. Also, I know everyone else has said this, but the first drop gives pretty good floater, and the station is pretty cool. Also, I like the Son of Beast tombstone. That's pretty poggers. So Banshee, despite not being one of my top inverts anymore, is still a really good ride.
This beast weighs 435,000 pounds.
So the Beast is just kind of a dumb ride with no real elements at all. But with that being said, I love the Beast. It's so good. First of all, you know when I was talking about the transitions with Adventure Express? Yeah, the Beast does that, but like times 12. It's insane. I mean, it's so insane to the point where I got a splinter while riding it. Also, both the first and second drops give like crazy airtime that like no one talks about for some reason. It's great, I love it. Also, of course, the Helix, its laterals are just as insane as everyone says they are. And overall, despite the fact that I did not get a night ride, the beast was just still so good. And so long and so rough, but the roughness made it better. So anyway, yeah, I don't really have much more to say about it, besides it's a great ride and it's elite and you should ride it today.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Okay, so last time I said that Diamondback was my favorite B&M Hyper when I had only ridden 2. And now that I have ridden like 6 or 7, I don't know. It's my second favorite. This ride is so good. Honestly, I don't even think the airtime is floater. It's bordering on ejector. It's insane. And the first drop, honestly, might be better than Orion's first drop, which... Okay, I just spoiled number 2, didn't I? Also, the Helix that goes into the splashdown is actually really intense and has really good positive G's. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna stop talking about Diamondback now because the next coaster on our list, my opinion on it changed a lot, so I think it's more interesting.
Ogres are like onions.
Okay, so back in my first video on Kings Island, I said something along the lines of, Orion is bad and overrated in the front row and is only good in the back row, which is where you should ride it. And while I still agree that the back row is a bit better than the front row is really good. I mean, maybe that's just because, like, first time I rode Orion was in April of 2022, and, you know, it was cold, it was, like, 50 degrees out, so maybe Orion wasn't running as fast, but I digress. Anyway, Orion's insane. Yeah, the wave turn, which apparently does nothing to most people, gave me, like, crazy ejector airtime, and it honestly, like, might be best part of the ride. Both the airtime hills on it are insane and give ejector and are really good. And also the Orion's belt element is like, though it's not good as the treble clef on Fury, it's honestly pretty close, I gotta admit. Also, that final bunny hill going into the brake run not only gives like crazy positive G's, but also probably has the single strongest pop of airtime in the entire park. It's crazy. And of course, the first drop is great, as you'd expect from a B&M Giga. Though, I still do have a few problems with it, like how that Helix towards the end doesn't do anything, and, yeah, I forgot my other complaint with it. Okay, anyway, yeah, Orion's awesome, and it is indeed a Giga.
Man, why you think it's gonna be in the shed? Man, I don't know.
Okay, so despite my opinion about a lot of the coasters here shifting a bit, my number 1 is still the same, that being Mystic Timbers. Basically, all my opinions about this ride from 2 years ago have stayed the same, but I'm gonna talk about it anyway because it's a really good ride and it deserves it. The ejector airtime on it is crazy. It actually has some pretty good positive G's on the first drop. And the shed, despite being kind of stupid, I love it for the cheesiness. It's great. Also, this probably gives like one of the best night rides I've ever gotten. I mean, like, seriously, it's up there with like Millennium Force for me as like my favorite night ride. It's awesome. So besides that, I don't really have much to say. Besides, on my most recent visit, the ops were stapling. So get that together, Kings Island. So yeah, I hope this video enticed you to go to Kings Island because it's a great park and you should go there. And also, I might start uploading consistently, maybe, so I don't know. With all that said, I'll see you in a year when I update my King's Dominion ranking.